Another week of NFL football is officially in the books. So let's talk about the top teams in the league. I'll give you my week 11 NFL power rankings. Plus, we'll talk about some of the top coaching candidates as there's going to be a ton of teams looking for new head coaches. It's the Jake Asman Football Show, and it starts right now.
Oh, yeah. It's time for the Jake Asman Football Show. Brought to you by BetUS. Expert betting odds and fantasy stats. So let's get into some NFL football. Brought to you by our friends at BetUS. So get your questions ready. Here's your host, Jake Asman.
Here we go. Welcome in, everybody. It is indeed the Jake Asman Football Show. We talk NFL football on this channel multiple times a week, including every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern time with NFL analyst Cole Thompson. I went 2-1 in the picks this past weekend, so I've been red hot with my selections. In fact, I'm looking at my overall record right now, and of course, if you've been making any of these picks over at BetUS, you've been profitable if you've been tailing what I've done. A 2-1 week for me brings me to 16-11 on the season. So shout out to me and not Cole Thompson, who went 1-2 in the picks. He's 13-14 overall. You heard me say it. We're presented by BetUS. If you're looking for an incredible sports book to bet on any NFL game, any college game, you name the sport, they have it. Check out BetUS. They're offering right now a 150% sign-up bonus with your first deposit. And you could get a 125% second and third deposit sign-up bonus. So check it out. Head over to BetUS and take full advantage. Thank you to BetUS for being our presenting sponsor. As far as the power rankings go, I think it's pretty easy at the top here, right? I think there's actually an argument to be made that the Detroit Lions are the best team in the NFL if you just watch how they played this year. But can anyone actually rank Kansas City not number one in any power rankings, right? They won the Super Bowl the last 2 years, 3 of the last 5. They have the best quarterback in the game, one of the greats of all time already in Patrick Mahomes. They have a Hall of Fame coach in Andy Reid. Kansas City is 9-0. Now, they should have lost this past week. We all saw what happened, a 35-yard field goal for the win, and Will Lutz of the Denver Broncos gets the kick blocked. But until Kansas City actually loses, and even if they lose a game or two, can you really not put the Kansas City Chiefs at number one if we're being honest? The Chiefs are the number one team in the league until proven otherwise. And while the Lions, I think, eye test-wise, have played better, and while I look at the Lions and I go, yep, I like them top to bottom, I can't put anyone ahead of the Chiefs right now. And if you look at other options for the number one spot, you're not putting the Ravens ahead of Kansas City. Kansas City has the head-to-head win over them. You're not putting the Bills over Kansas City, although we'll see what Buffalo looks like against this Chiefs team coming up. That's going to be a fascinating matchup, one of the bigger matchups we get all year. That game is coming up this Sunday. Late window, 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo special. So we'll see how Buffalo compares to the Chiefs when they go head-to-head. But if you're doing power rankings, I think it'd be silly or even hot-takey to put any team besides the Chiefs in the number one spot. Do I think the Lions are better? I do, but I can't, in good faith, justify not putting Kansas City at number one. They just find ways to win. All they do is win. Till someone beats them, I think the Chiefs are the best. At number 2, I'm putting the Lions there. Look, Detroit did not play great, or Jared Goff did not play great against Houston on Sunday, but that's really what championship teams do. They just find ways to win. We were just talking about that with the Chiefs. The fact that the Lions won that game is a testament to how well they're coached, testament to the pedigree, the winning culture that has been established there now over the last couple of years. You look at the Lions team and what they have defensively, even without Aiden Hutchinson, give a lot of credit to the players on that team stepping up. Amon St. Brown continues to be incredible in his 4th year in the league. He has a receiving touchdown in 7 consecutive games, longest streak in franchise history. Ben Johnson's going to be a top coaching candidate, if not the top coaching candidate during this hiring cycle. Aaron Glenn, the Lions defensive coordinator, is going to be a top coaching candidate as well. Lions at number 2, I think, is completely fair. Number 3, I had a toss-up here. It was either going to be the Baltimore Ravens or the Buffalo Bills. And I'm going with the Ravens here just based on the eye test. Plus, if I rank the Bills ahead of the Ravens, even though Buffalo's 8-2 and Baltimore is 7-3, I would forget about the fact that when the two met head-to-head, it's not like it was a close game. The Ravens blew out Buffalo, ran it down their throat. Now, that's earlier in the year, and teams are different, but I got to be fair to just how I see it. I'm putting the Baltimore Ravens at 3. I'm putting the Buffalo Bills at number 4. Number 5 is fascinating because I still don't think this team is as talented as some of the other teams in the league, but at some point, your record has to matter. And at some point, we got to acknowledge what we're seeing. I'm putting the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 5 at 7-2. Look, Russell Wilson is not a superstar at this stage of his career, but he's played well. And you got to give Mike Tomlin credit for making that move. He sits Fields down when they're 4-2. And Russ has gone out there and has played some outstanding football. Got to put the Steelers in the top 5. They just went into Washington and won a gritty game over a Commanders team. That's been one of the biggest surprises, if not the biggest surprise, in the NFL this season with a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels. You look at TJ Watt, he should get Defensive Player of the Year consideration. He's a game wrecker every week. And it's not like it's just because of sacks. He's forced 4 fumbles. 2 fumble recoveries, including the strip sack at the end of that Giants game on Monday night 2 weeks ago. You just look at what the Steelers have, how they find a way to win. The record has to matter. So I got Pittsburgh at number 5. At number 6, I'm putting the Washington Commanders in that spot. I just look at what I've seen from Washington, how good Jaden Daniels has been, the coaching of Dan Quinn, the offensive coordinating of Cliff Kingsbury. It's great to see Terry McLaurin actually have a legit quarterback. He has 6 touchdown passes this year, 1 shy of his career high, and he's on pace for a career best 1,200 receiving yards. He's a stud, and he finally has a real quarterback thrown to him in Jaden Daniels. So I got the Commanders at 6, and I'm putting the Philadelphia Eagles in that NFC East. I'm putting them at 7. Now, Washington is 7-3. Philly is 7-2. But the eye test and the coaching is why I'm favoring the Commies over Philadelphia. I don't fully trust Nick Sirianni. I don't think he's nearly as bad of a coach as some portray him, especially Eagles fans. But I like what I have seen from Washington more from Philly. And we'll see. When those two teams play, there's going to be some big games down the stretch. Number 8 for me, I'm putting the Minnesota Vikings at number 8. Now, they beat the Jaguars this past week, 12-7. It was ugly. Sam Darnold threw 3 picks. He has seemingly regressed and not been as good after a great start for Sam in Minnesota. But the Vikings are well coached with O'Connell, one of the great offensive minds in the sport. And their defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, lawsuit aside against the NFL, he's going to get some serious head coaching consideration once again. And your record has to matter. And Minnesota is 7-2, and they have a head-to-head win over the Green Bay Packers. So I got to put Minnesota at 8, and I'll put Green Bay at number 9. And then finally, my number 10 team in my power rankings here, I just watched them kick the living crap out of the team I support. I'm putting the Cardinals there. They're only 6-4, but you know what? They have been red hot. They are well coached. They're not doing it with a bunch of superstars on either side of the ball, but they find ways to win. And you look at that division, why not the Arizona Cardinals? So I have the Cardinals rounding out my top 10. Some honorable mentions I thought about. The Niners, the Chargers, who are 6-3, and the Falcons, who are 6-4. Those are the other teams I was debating. I can't put Houston there. I don't think Houston is nearly as good as their 6-4 record. We're starting to see that. They're in first place, but they have a negative point differential. I don't think the Texans are as good as we thought. So I can't consider them, but those were the other teams I was considering. So to recap, number 1 for me, Kansas City. Number 2, Detroit. Number 3, Baltimore. Number 4, Buffalo. Number 5, Pittsburgh. Number 6, Washington. Number 7, Philadelphia. Number 8, Minnesota. Number 9, Green Bay. Number 10, Arizona. Honorable mention, LA Chargers. San Francisco 49ers, Atlanta Falcons. Those are my top 10 power rankings going into week 11 of the NFL season. You're watching the Jake Asman Football Show presented by BetUS. Give me your top 3 if you're watching live right now in the comments. If you're not watching live, write it down in the comment section after the fact. Your top teams in the NFL as we enter week 11 of the season. The other topic I wanted to hit on here are some of the top coaching candidates this upcoming hiring cycle. The reality is we know typically there's anywhere from 7 to 10 jobs that open up every year. In fact, we've already seen 2 jobs become available. The Jets were the first to fire a coach in season, firing Robert Saleh after 5 games. The Jets under Jeff Ulbrich have been a mess, 1-4 so far. I think I have a better chance of being the Jets head coach than Jeff Ulbrich does. So the Jet job is definitely open. And despite winning his first game in New Orleans, the Saints, who fired Dennis Allen, I can't see any scenario where they're not going to be in the market for a head coach. Give a lot of credit to Darren Rizzi, their special teams coordinator, for winning his first game. But I'd be surprised if Rizzi is the Saints head coach. You got 2 openings so far. And I think if you just look at the draft order, you can kind of figure out where some of the others might be coming from too. Jacksonville certainly feels like Doug Peterson could be out. The Giants, up in the air. I think it depends how they finish. Dable, I think, is not a terrible coach, but is Daniel Jones and the quarterback play so bad there that it might cost him his job? We'll see. If Kevin Stefanski gets fired, he'd be a top candidate. Perhaps he's available. I think Antonio Pierce's job is in major jeopardy. And then you go down the list of some of the other potential, head coaches that are going to get fired. Mike McCarthy won't technically be fired. His contract's up, but he feels like a dead coach walking, right? I mean, you go through the list here. Is Matt Eberflus going to survive in Chicago with how Caleb Williams has regressed? The Bears, just before I went live, already announced that Shane Waldron, their offensive coordinator, has been fired. So once you fire the OC, then the heat gets turned up on the head coach who's not an offensive-minded guy. So Chicago certainly could be opening. You look around the league, there's going to be openings. How bad is it going to get in Indy? Could Shane Steichen actually lose his job? We've seen the regression or lack of improvement from Anthony Richardson. Is he in jeopardy? And there's always a surprise or two you're not expecting. Remember, no one saw Mike Vrabel getting fired last year, which is a perfect segue. Because I believe there's anywhere from 7 to 10 jobs that eventually will become available. If you're ranking the top coaching candidates during this cycle, Mike Vrabel, for me, has to be right up there as one of the best options. He's currently the Cleveland Browns coaching/personal assistant. But this is a guy, because of his track record, should absolutely get a tremendous amount of consideration. 6 seasons in Tennessee, Mike Vrabel was 54-45. They ranked 5th in offensive EPA, 17th in defensive EPA. In those 6 years, they ranked 9th in scoring defense, 14th in offensive EPA, 2nd in rushing offense, 4th in rushing defense, 1st in red zone efficiency. This guy is going to get a job, and there'll be a lot of teams that want him. Last year, he interviewed for the Chargers job, the Falcons job, and the Panthers job. It feels like if Jim Harbaugh didn't take the Chargers job, he was the choice for the Chargers. Mike Vrabel will be in the NFL next year as a head coach, and he should. Another name I'd mention is a guy who's actually Mike Vrabel's boss technically right now, Kevin Stefanski. I don't know if the Browns would be dumb enough to fire Stefanski. If they are, I'd be all over him. Another name to watch. Got to throw Pete Carroll in the mix. I know he's 73, but maybe a win-now team like the Cowboys, maybe the Jets, depending on how they view Aaron Rodgers and what happens there. Pete Carroll's a name to watch. He's an older guy. I get it. But so is Belichick. And by the way, Pete Carroll's had success with a variety of different quarterbacks. Unlike Belichick. Pete Carroll, in 14 years in Seattle, never won fewer than 7 games. And only won fewer than 9 3 times. The guy can coach. Cliff Kingsbury, the OC in Washington. The job he's done with Jaden Daniels speaks for itself. Former head coach, maybe gets another opportunity. He was 28-37 in Arizona. They were 11-6 and made the playoffs in 2021. Then Kyler got hurt that last year in Arizona, and it all fell apart. But I think we're seeing some guys get second chances as head coaches and having success. Cliff, I think, is a name to watch. Brian Flores, another name to watch. Now, he's got a lawsuit going right now against several teams in the league. But Brian Flores, the job he's done in Minnesota, the fact that when he was the head coach of the Dolphins, they had 2 winning seasons in 3 years. How is Brian Flores not going to get some consideration? If you look at the college ranks, Matt Campbell's a name you hear every year. In fact, I know the Jets pursued him in 2021. Iowa State's having a really good season again. Matt Campbell should be on the list. Also, Coach Prime, right? If Deion Sanders goes out there and Colorado wins the Big 12 and his son's coming out and might be the first pick in the draft, why wouldn't Deion be a coaching candidate? He's won everywhere he's been. Now, you bring a lot of attention and hoopla with that. But by the way, Deion Sanders absolutely is a legit candidate, the more I think about it. As far as the coordinators that are top coaching options, we'll do the OCs first. Ben Johnson's number one. I mean, he was number one last year. He chose to stay in Detroit. He'll basically have his pick of where he wants to go if he wants to leave. Clint Kubiak, Saints OC. I don't know if he's still having the buzz he had towards the beginning of the year, but he comes from that Shanahan tree. His dad obviously was a Super Bowl winning head coach. He's a guy to watch. Todd Monken, Ravens offensive coordinator, has been given some coaching consideration in the past. He's going to be a guy that can get some opportunities here. Vikings OC, Wes Phillips. You want to pluck from the Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell tree? The Vikings OC is going to get some consideration. Bobby Slowick. While the Texans are not as good this year offensively as they were last year, he was a hot name a year ago. I'm sure he'll get some consideration in an offensive league this time around. And here's another underrated name to watch. Adam Stenavich, who's the Packers OC. He doesn't call the plays in Green Bay, but he was an O-line coach and is now the OC. So he's been around several roles on an offensive staff. And apparently people rave about him. As far as defensive coordinators go, Aaron Glenn, I already mentioned him earlier in the show. I mean, Aaron Glenn is a guy who's gotten better every year in Detroit. The Lions rank 8th in points allowed, 8th in EPA per play. They're the best defense on third down in the league. Players love them. I think there was a players poll that voted them the number one DC in football. He's a guy that will definitely get some consideration this hiring cycle. You wonder, are we going to see a shift from NFL teams who are so dead set focused on offensive guys? Is it going to be more about, hey, bringing in just the best guys for the job, the best candidates? That's the question we don't have the answer to. And I'll give you a couple loose cannons, a couple wild cards. Rex Ryan absolutely will be a candidate. I don't know for every team, but certainly for the Jets, I could see Rex getting an interview. He wants the job. The Jets might struggle finding people who want the job as much as Rex. Who knows? Rex, I think, is certainly a name to watch. And then I'll give you one more. Ryan Day. I don't know if Ohio State would fire him or if Day would leave if they don't win this year. But Ryan Day was an NFL guy. Let's not forget that. Ryan Day was the Eagles quarterback coach in 2015 and the Niners quarterback coach in 2016. If you want an offensive guy with NFL experience, I mean, he coached Justin Fields. He coached C.J. Stroud. They're both guys, obviously, first-round picks. Name to watch there. But overall, there's always a surprise or two as well in regards to this. So be on the lookout for that. Comments, questions, super chats will cut the line. Just gave you my top coaching candidates. We gave you the power rankings earlier in the show. Alfredo with a super chat. He ranks it refs, Lions, Ravens. Alfredo taking a not-so-subtle jab at the Kansas City Chiefs, who seem to get every call from the referees. Mark writes in, Jake, agreed on your top 10. I think the Lions would beat the Chiefs, but they are the team until dethroned. Tough to argue with that. Tough to argue with that, but until someone beats the Chiefs, it feels like you got to put them one. You have to. They haven't lost. There's something to be said for finding ways to win. So I think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't. I'm just playing the percentages. No team's ever won it 3 times in a row. I think it's too hard to do for a reason. In fact, we haven't had a team win back-to-back years in 20 years until this past year. Right? The Chiefs did something that no team had done in the league since New England, 03-04. But ultimately, until someone beats the Chiefs, how do you not put them number one in any rankings? JM says, wake me up when Baltimore actually beats KC in January. That's the thing, right? Someone's got to beat the Chiefs. Last year was, well, Mahomes has to go on the road for the first time. What is that going to look like? Whoa. What does it look like? He went into Buffalo and beat Josh Allen, went into Baltimore and beat Lamar Jackson. It looked like the same old Chiefs. So someone's got to beat him before we knock him off the number one ranking, in my view. Bill writes in, NFC is a better conference, without question. Without question. Now, the AFC might have the best team if you put Kansas City 1 like I did. And I think Baltimore and Buffalo are really good. But after that, you look at the NFC. The quality of team there, I think, is clearly better. It's a much deeper conference. Much deeper. The NFC has the Falcons. The NFC has the Niners. The NFC has the Cardinals, the Packers, the Vikings, the Commanders, Philadelphia, Detroit. It's a deeper conference. AFC is very mediocre. It's top heavy. I think the top 3 is legit, right? I think Kansas City is legit. Buffalo's legit. The Ravens are legit. But Houston's the other first place team in the conference. I don't think they're a legit contender. The NFC is way deeper. I want to thank the audience for watching the Jake Asman Football Show. Reminder, check out BetUS and take advantage of their sign-up bonuses. If you're a first-time customer, you could bet on any sport at any time, including, of course, the NFL. We'll be back on Friday with our weekly picks against the spread. Cole Thompson and I trying to help everyone out there earn some cash money, baby. Thanks for watching. My name is Jake Asman. Comment down below your top teams in the NFL and let me know who you think is the top coaching candidate this hiring cycle. Once again, this has been the Jake Asman Football Show. Thank you all for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.